Good afternoon and welcome to this Council on Undergraduate Research webinar, Achieving an Institution-Wide Culture and Practice in Undergraduate Research, Best Practices from AURA 2017 Awardees. We are pleased you could join us, including prospective applicants for the 2018 awards. I am Roger Rowlett, an Emeritus President of the Council on Undergraduate Research. Next slide, please. Thank you. During the course of the next hour, you will hear from faculty and administration leaders at 3 outstanding institutions. From Denison University, Margot Singer, Dominic Consolo Professor of English and Director of the Liska Center for Scholarly Engagement, and Jessica Reddig, Associate Professor of Biology and Anderson Endowment Director. From Hope College, William Pollack, Edward and Elizabeth Hoffman Professor of Chemistry and Associate Dean of Research and Scholarship. And from Florida Atlantic University, Donna Shamley-Veek, Assistant Dean for Undergraduate Research and Associate Scientist in Chemistry. All 3 institutions are winners in last year's highly competitive campus-wide awards for Undergraduate Research Accomplishments, or AURA. They will be sharing their award-winning practices with you and answering questions that you may have after their presentations. Ann Betcher, President of the Council on Undergraduate Research, will moderate the question and answer session at the end of this webinar. At this point, I'd like to introduce everyone to Robin Howard, who is serving as the technical host for the webinar today. If you should have any questions for Robin, she can be reached at robin@cur.org, and she will give you a few housekeeping comments to get us started.
Thanks very much, Roger, and thanks to everyone for joining us today. Please do note that your line is muted, so you won't be able to speak directly to us, but don't think that that means that we don't want this experience to be interactive. There is a chat box that you can put any of your questions through. Please don't hesitate to put those through during the presentation. We've got Ann, who's going to be moderating those questions and pulling them all together, and we do have some time reserved at the end. So make sure that you're using that chat box to ask those questions. We also will be making this available for you after the fact. So we'll be recording this session, and that recording, as well as a copy of the slides, will be made available to all of the registrants. So thank you again for joining us today, and we'll get started.
Okay, next slide, please. For those of you who are relatively new to CUR and may not have memorized our mission statement, it is to support and promote high-quality undergraduate student faculty collaborative research and scholarship. All of the best practices presented today stem from this mission as elaborated in CUR's publication, Characteristics and Excellence in Undergraduate Research. Characteristics of Excellence, published in 2012, is a summary of best practices gleaned from CUR's long history of professional development institutes and other programs involving over 600 educational institutions nationwide. It addresses 12 major areas, 64 characteristics, and 202 accessible outcomes. It can be used as a guide for institutions to evaluate, foster, and sustain excellence in undergraduate research. Next slide. The Campus-Wide Award for Undergraduate Research, established in 2015, was designed to publicly recognize institutions that have implemented many of the characteristics of excellence, devised innovative and exemplary programs, and have assessed the success of their efforts. Awardees have also demonstrated institutional depth and breadth in their undergraduate research programs. Our awards are given annually to institutions of all types and sizes. Today's awardees are the 3rd cohort of institutions so honored. It is now my pleasure to turn the program over to our 2017 AURA awardees. First up is Denison University.
Hi, greetings to all. Thank you very much. This is Margot Singer, And I'm Jessica Reddig.
We're going to take turns taking you through the next couple of slides. Next slide.
Just to give you a little background about Denison, we are a small liberal arts college located in central Ohio. Student research is a central part of our mission. Our classes are small, interactive, and very hands-on. And in the sciences in particular, science classes include research components, labs. Faculty research is also very important and valued. And in a typical week, we might expect that about 75% of our faculty are working with students on some aspect of a research project.
Next slide. Our proposal for the grant focused on the Liska Center for Scholarly Engagement, which is the hub for undergraduate research activities here at Denison. Gilpatrick House, where we're located, has actually been a residence hall, is still a residence hall for a small group of select students engaged in research. It has been that kind of a residence hall since the late 80s. But in the last 2 years, we renamed the center from Gilpatrick Center as part of our strategic plan and part of the college's strategic priority to promote both student-faculty mentorship and to strengthen the culture of intellectual life on campus. So we focused in our proposal on the Liska Center's mission, which includes a number of areas. We're the fellowships office. We do fellowships advising. We provide some funding for undergraduate research and academic travel, as well as a lot of programming. But the program that we highlighted as our flagship was the Summer Scholars Program, and that's the one we're going to share a little bit of detail with you today. Next slide.
The Summer Scholars Program operates where students write proposals and work for up to 10 weeks on campus or off campus under the close supervision and mentorship of a faculty member. A little over half of those research experiences are awarded in the sciences, but all disciplines, humanities, social sciences, and fine arts are included. The program got its start with an initial donor gift in the mid-1980s, starting up with summer research experiences in the early 1990s. Originally focused just on the sciences, but then as donor interest and the institutional interest expanded, we expanded to include all of the disciplines as being possible. Last year, we funded 132 projects, and the science numbers, if you look at the panel on the right, have been pretty stable over time, and we are seeing the most growth in the social sciences, humanities, and fine arts. Next slide, please.
2 years ago, having seen a little bit of erosion in our numbers, especially outside of the sciences, probably due to the popularity of internships, we decided to introduce 2 new programs. We've always had the on-campus up to 10-week research programs in both the sciences and non-sciences, but 2 years ago we added 2 new programs. One is the early experience opportunity for just current freshmen or rising sophomores, designed to be a shorter experience, a little less intensive, but to draw a diverse and younger group of students into the research experience. We also launched an off-campus Summer Scholars Program where students can propose to undertake research projects that have to be done either in part or in full off-campus. Again, in all disciplines, up to 10 weeks. All of these experiences, we don't have any graduate students, so these are all undergrads working directly with faculty members in either one-on-one interactions or in small research groups. So in terms of numbers, we've had about a dozen early experience students each summer in the 3 years that we've done it, and somewhere between 5 and 10 off-campus scholars, rounding out the diversity of the programs that we offer. Next slide.
Focusing just on the on-campus piece, which includes the Anderson Scholars, who are the science-oriented students, and then the Young Scholars, which includes fine arts, humanities, and social sciences. Some key features of this summer program include the fact that students receive a stipend as well as the mentor. Students do not get a grade or earn any kind of academic credit. The idea behind this is to allow them just the freedom to explore and see what it's like to be a scholar. Students are also given a housing allowance to live on campus. If they need to do some traveling, which sometimes happen, there are some travel funds available. In the sciences, students get a small budget to help them handle research needs, supplies for their projects, but all students can also apply for some additional funding to help regardless of the type of project that they're working on. We use a slightly different, in both the sciences and non-sciences, students write proposals. In the sciences, the proposal is reviewed by the mentors department and ranked before we award funding. In the social sciences, humanities, and fine arts, there's a committee of faculty, one from each division of our college, who review and rank all of those proposals. And then we simply start funding at the top of the ranking list and try to fund as many students as we can, as long as those proposals merit funding. We do a number of social events and intellectual activities across the summer to find ways to engage the students and try to build a scholarly community during the summer. In the fall, all students present their research either in a poster session, or if their scholarship and creative work is more aligned to performance, there's a session for those kinds of activities as well. And then we do assessment in a number of different ways, some indirectly using data from the NESE survey. The science students complete the CUR survey, which comes out of Grinnell College. We also do our own internal surveys for students and their mentors every summer. And then we also use metrics like publications, where students are potentially co-authors on publications, students who are presenting posters or papers at conferences as evidence of the success of the program. Next slide, please.
So just to wrap up, here you can see a few images of students and faculty working together on projects, of students making informal presentations in the upper right, and in the lower left, a more formal poster presentation. On the bottom right, you see a student who's in Rwanda shooting a documentary on an off-campus summer project. Just to recap, the distinctive features that we highlighted in our proposal of this Summer Scholars Program include the length of time that it's been growing and building, the support provided for projects across all of the disciplines, not just the sciences, the fact that we support both students and faculty with stipends from endowed funds. We have over $1.5 million in income from our endowment that supports this program. And then an ongoing process of assessment, review, and improvement that has demonstrable results as shown by student learning and intellectual engagement. We're proud of the engaged campus community that this program creates during the summer months, and are excited by some of the new things we've introduced in recent years. So just to close, thank you very much. Sincere thanks to the Council on Undergraduate Research for all the support provided and for the award. Thanks.
And thank you for that summary of undergraduate research at Denison. Next up is Hope College.
Good afternoon. I am Will Pollack from Hope College, where I serve as Associate Dean for Research and Scholarship, and am a faculty member in the Chemistry Department. Hope College is an undergraduate liberal arts college located on the west shore of Michigan. Hope has about 3,000 students and 250 full-time faculty. Most of our students come from the upper Midwest, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, though we have students from 36 states and 28 countries. Hope has 24 departments and 11 interdisciplinary programs in the arts and humanities, social sciences, and natural and applied sciences. Hope has a long history of student-faculty collaborative research. Undergraduate research began in the 1940s when Dr. Gerrit van Zyl worked with chemistry students in his lab, mostly local farm kids, and then personally took them in his automobile to regional universities to enroll them in graduate school, an early form of mentorship, I guess. In the 1950s, biology and physics developed undergraduate research programs, followed in the 1960s by psychology, and more recently, the arts and humanities. 2 decades ago, Hope established the first of several living learning support communities. And 1 decade ago, to broaden research opportunities for students, we initiated course-based research experiences. Success in these efforts has required buy-in and support from the entire college. These 4 areas form the basis for Hope College's ORA application, and I will address each of them on the next slides. Two aspects have been critical to Hope's longevity and impact of traditional faculty-mentored research. First, research occurs year-round in dedicated research space. And second, students are invited into research very early in their time at Hope, commonly as sophomores, but also as first-year students. 300 students registered for research during the academic year, which is probably an undercount of actual participation because students are also in the lab and in other research areas when they're not actually registered. Over 200 students received paid stipends to do research every summer, spanning the natural and applied sciences, social sciences, and arts and humanities. Hope faculty are active in writing external grants and secure an average of $2 million annually over the past decade for research, along with another $1 million annually for other academic programs. Hope's faculty bibliography typically lists between 90 to 120 publications annually, many with student co-authors. And as an institution, Hope has maintained a very strong physical infrastructure to support research. Whenever we design new facilities or purchase equipment, we strive for dual purpose labs, studios, instrumentation that can support both our teaching and research missions. Next slide. My second point deals with living learning support research communities. Hope College established its first living learning community in 1998, the Phelps Scholar Program, named after our first president, Philip Phelps, Jr. It was a community, I should say it is a community of minority and majority students designed to promote diversity and provide experiences with other cultures. While not directly connected to research, it is very popular and has been shown to improve student retention. With initial funding from HHMI, Hope created Fostering a Community of Excellence in Science, or FACES, which is a peer mentoring program that pairs first-year underrepresented minority students with an upper-class student. It also provides academic support through study groups, professional development workshops, social activities, and builds in connections to undergraduate research opportunities. I'll comment more on FACES in a bit. Several years ago, Hope started a new and innovative program called Day One, meaning that research for students starts on their first day on campus. Day One centralizes various research opportunities for first-year students, including discovering new phage viruses in biology, studying the local watershed, doing geology fieldwork, undertaking an engineering design and fabrication project, and doing research aboard a Great Lakes vessel. Next slide, please. The third point of our application was that in order to increase the capacity of research, Hope has been moving research into student coursework. This started 2 decades ago when organic chemistry independent projects were used to supplement the research programs of enterprising chemistry faculty. Another example of the dual purpose concept in action. 1 decade ago, Hope offered the Phage Discovery Lab as an alternative to traditional first-year biology labs. And with the advent of Day 1, Chemistry offers a watershed research lab as an alternative to traditional first-year chemistry labs. In both of these cases, very careful auditing of the student learning experience occurs so that students both get a research experience and are well prepared for future biology and chemistry courses. The Mellon Scholars Program is a way for arts and humanities students to link their coursework to an independent research project with a faculty mentor. This program is notable because it developed and named the field of digital liberal arts, which has been adopted by many other colleges and has been written up in the New York Times and Chronicle of Higher Education. Both Day 1 and Mellon Scholars exemplify new and innovative ways of delivering research experiences to students that are transportable beyond Hope and are making a national impact. Next slide. An important part of Hope's Aura application was documenting our assessment of research activities. While we count student research experiences, funding rates for undergraduate research, student co-authored papers, we also want to assess student outcomes. One example is the success that our FACES program has had with student retention and on GPA. If we focus on the first column, underrepresented minorities participating in FACES had a 92% retention rate after the first year, which is significantly higher than eligible students who did not participate in FACES, and even higher than the overall average retention rate at Hope College. Looking at the last column, underrepresented minorities participating in FACES had a GPA of 3.1, significantly higher again than non-participating eligible students. The retention rate data was critical in obtaining college funding to continue the FACES program after its initial grant support from HHMI had expired. On average, 12 additional underrepresented minority students were staying at Hope each year because of FACES, which provided both a diversity and financial benefit to the college. On my next and final slide, I will speak to my fourth point, that undergraduate research has broad support from the entire institution. Hope's current strategic plan includes the statement that every Hope student will have a customized, faculty-supervised experience linked to their vocational aspirations, with undergraduate research being a primary way of meeting this requirement. When hiring new faculty at Hope, all candidates are evaluated for their ability to involve undergraduates in their scholarship. Hope has made significant investments in new facilities, designing them for both research and teaching whenever possible. Hope College created an Office of Research and Scholarship with an associated dean's position to support faculty scholarship and undergraduate research. This office oversees Hope's Institutional Review Board, Animal Care and Use Committee, our Social Science Research Center that administers all surveys, the Summer Undergraduate Research Program, our annual Campus Research Symposium, which had 380 students making 250 presentations and over 900 community visitors this past year. And we take 15 to 25 students annually to NCUR. All of this requires active support from many offices across campus, including development to assist with faculty grants, admissions to promote Day 1, marketing to advertise our annual research celebration around the community, physical plant, housing, and human resources to create space, house, and pay our summer research students. Undergraduate research does not occur in a vacuum and requires making connections to all of these groups across campus. Finally, we would like to thank the Council on Undergraduate Research for recognizing Hope College with its Award for Undergraduate Research Accomplishments, AURA. It is an honor to have the efforts of so many faculty mentors and student researchers recognized, and we are very appreciative for the external validation that this award brings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Will. Our final awardee is Florida Atlantic University.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I am Donna Shamley-Veek. I'm an assistant dean for undergraduate research, and I'm also a faculty member in chemistry. It's my pleasure to talk a little bit about the undergraduate research initiative at FAU with a focus on some of the data and the evidences that we provided to receive the AURA award. So next slide, please. A little bit about FAU first. So we are located in Boca Raton, Florida, which is the southeast region of Palm Beach County. FAU is a doctoral granting institution with Carnegie classification of high research activity. As a Hispanic serving institute, FAU is fortunate enough to serve a wonderfully diverse student population of about 24,000 undergraduate students. We actually are the most diverse institution in our 12-state university system within the state of Florida. And unlike my colleagues at Hope, FAU doesn't have a very long history of formalized undergraduate research involvement, but like our institution, we pursued it with unbridled ambition. In 2011, when we were establishing the baseline, we identified small pockets of activities of success distributed across our campuses. And what we did at FAU was we leveraged our SACS accreditation through the Quality Enhancement Plan to build a program focused on establishing a culture of undergraduate research. The timing was perfect because in 2012, the CUR document had just been published. And so we used the CUR document to develop the plan. And in 2013, the Office of Undergraduate Research and Inquiry was established. Next slide, please. OURI's central mission was broad-based expansion of a culture of undergraduate research and inquiry, and also making sure that we distinguished FAU as an institution that supported and encouraged students to engage in the practices of discovery. Next slide, please. So each of the next few slides will outline the 5 categories that we chose to discuss for the AURA Award. And the first one being a campus mission and culture. So with a goal of a culture change, we knew we had to make our programs part of the institutional DNA. And for us to be able to do this, we enlisted faculty, staff, and students through a series of communities and committees throughout the years. OURI to date is still led by a faculty director, which is me, but we are guided by students and faculty through committees. And like both Denison and Hope, we worked very, very closely and partnered with stakeholders to establish university-wide support through collaborations. Some of those units included the Division of Research, the University Library, Student Affairs, as well as all of our colleges and campus partners. We were able to also establish synergistic relationships among some of the other high-impact educational practices. Next slide, please. For evidences of a culture change as it applied to the AURA Award, what we did was we presented consistent and exponential increases in faculty and student participation from inception to present, as you can see on the 2 graphs that I present in this slide. The bottom chart demonstrates the percentage of faculty by college to show not only broad-based participation across the colleges, but also exponential increases in faculty participation as a percent of their college each year for 3 consecutive years. Next slide, please. With regards to administrative support, FAU and the Office of Undergraduate Research have been very fortunate to sustain administrative support through 3 presidents, 2 soon to be 3 provosts, an entire cycle out of deans, and all within a 6-year time frame. Undergraduate research is front and center in our strategic plan as an institutional platform. And as a result of our efforts, our programs have expanded in scope, collaborations, and infrastructure within the past 6 years. We've also been able to leverage this infrastructure to solicit external funding to expand our programs. And most recently, we were able to get language included in our promotion and tenure guidelines related to undergraduate research in all 3 categories of teaching, research, and service, placing it as a high priority for faculty consideration. Next slide, please. In the area of dissemination, in addition to expanding our own symposium, we collaborated to establish an 8-week showcase series, which included university-wide student showcase programs from our partner campuses and our colleges. We collaborated with Student Affairs to provide targeted support for students presenting their research at regional and national symposia. And last year, we served as hosts for a regional symposium of undergraduate research, where 25 state universities and colleges brought over 700 participants to the university to present research at FAU. Additionally, and more recently, a few of our faculty have begun to present and publish their research related to undergraduate research. Next slide, please. As evidences of an expansion and dissemination, we were able to demonstrate increases in internal grants, presentations, and publications across the board at FAU over the 5-year time frame of the establishment of OURI. We were also able to demonstrate equivalent increases in external presentations and publications, not presented on this slide, but was presented in the Aura Award. Next slide, please. So for Aura, we used an evidence-based approach. All of our targeted goals were backed up by data and evidence that we were able to present. And some of it we've shown you in the previous slides. But in addition to the data presented earlier, we were also able to provide data on our student undergraduate population. For us, it was important to get to know who our students were so that we could tailor our programs to better serve them. We were able to provide data on changes to that population in time, demonstrating an increase in underrepresented minority students engaging in undergraduate research, which was very, very exciting for us. We were able to provide preliminary data on the impact of the undergraduate research program on retention and post-graduation activities. And since undergraduate research, our program places a very strong emphasis on directly measuring student learning assessment, we were also able to provide data on the impact of the undergraduate research initiative on student learning outcomes. And all of this data was used and currently is used to drive continuous improvements within our programs, ensuring that we're not a static program and that we're constantly meeting the needs of our faculty and students within the mission of the institution. Next slide, please. The exemplary program that we chose to highlight was our curriculum grants program. This is a competitive grants program where faculty propose altering their courses or programs to include an undergraduate research and inquiry component. It could be as simple as a research assignment or as elaborate as an inter-college collaborative degree program. Through the curriculum grants program, as you can see in the data presented on the right-hand side of this slide, we have impacted 23 undergraduate departments, which is about half of the undergraduate departments within FAU, through a total of 85 courses. Now, while the curriculum grants program has been one of our most challenging, it has also been one of the most rewarding programs. And it has allowed us to expand and increase the reach of undergraduate research to a much larger student population, since we're dealing with 25,000 undergraduates at FAU. Next slide, please. So we define undergraduate research through a sequence of 6 targeted student learning outcomes. And faculty centralize the activity of undergraduate research through the establishment of a question or an unstructured problem. Within the curriculum grants program, student skills are scaffolded through courses, and in some cases, and in some advanced programs, through a sequence of courses up the curriculum, leading to, in many cases, an intensive capstone or an intensive independent undergraduate research experience. Faculty professional development is offered throughout the process, focused on assessment of student learning, curriculum mapping, and course design. And our student learning is assessed through a rubric that we developed, which was an adaptation from the AAC&U value rubrics, which I understand a lot of people are very familiar with. Next slide, please. In terms of evidences for the aura, figure 1 shows by learning outcome our ability to capture the percent of students who scored exemplary, competent, and developing within the 6 student learning outcomes as defined by undergraduate research. Now, while this is a holistic presentation of data, for aura, we also provided exemplar, individual, course, and program data that showed increases in student learning, in critical thinking, and ethical conduct, and formulating question within the evidences of our student learning outcomes. We work with faculty very closely to look at the data and annually improve their courses and programs based on the data. Next and final slide, please. So changing the culture of a university in such a short space of time truly takes dedication and teamwork. And we'd like to acknowledge the efforts of our core team members presented on this slide, but also several other people that are not presented. The top picture is at our annual summer retreat, where each year over 100 faculty, staff, and students have participated in our efforts to annually expand, improve, and grow the undergraduate research program. Finally, we have to acknowledge CUR and the CUR community for many things, for the wealth of resources and best practices which the units as well as CUR was willing to share. For the honor of this award and for the recognition of the efforts of the FAU family and the FAU team towards expanding and increasing a culture of undergraduate research. We'd also like to thank Hope and Denison for helping us learn more about their programs, and to all of you for listening. Thanks.
So I think you can see why CUR chose to recognize these 3 outstanding institutions for their undergraduate research programs. Ann Betcher, president of CUR, will moderate questions you may have of our presenters or about the Aura Award process.
So we've already received some of the questions, and I'm going to cycle through the various institutions and the types of questions we've received. So the first one is for Denison. Do the off-campus scholars have to work with Denison faculty, or can they be part of the off-campus research program?
So this is Margot. It depends. We require all of the off-campus proposals to have both a Denison sponsor. They have to write a letter of support along with the application, and to have a point person or mentor in the place they're going. The roles that those 2 people play vary greatly. So for example, a student working in a research lab, a marine biology lab in Hawaii, worked primarily with her professor in Hawaii, but touched base periodically with her professor back here at Denison. But that professor at Denison didn't do much and just got paid a very small honorarium. By contrast, a student who worked in London last summer on a social sciences project had a professor at the University of London that she worked with, but the majority of her mentorship was provided by her Denison professor, who Skyped with her a couple times a week. And so that professor did receive the full faculty stipend.
Thank you. So the next one's for Hope. What is the faculty teaching load, and how many faculty are involved in research during the summer?
Hi, excuse me. Hi, this is Will here. The faculty teaching load at Hope is counted differently in different departments, but if we were to summarize it, it's roughly a 3+3 if one is involved in scholarship, more if one is not. As far as the number of faculty involved in research, about a third of our faculty, or about 80, are involved as mentors of undergraduate students over the summer. Additional faculty pursue their independent scholarship over the summer. I don't have a good number on that. And then during the academic year, actually, I would have to check our statistics on that also. But one could presume that most of those 80, if not more, are involved with students in their own scholarship, plus the kind of scholarship, the kind of research that we do in classroom-based research experiences.
Thank you. So the next one's for FAU, and the question is, how exactly does FAU track the involvement and engagement of faculty in undergraduate research?
Sure, that's actually a great question. We do it through the Office of Undergraduate Research. And so any faculty so all of our activities are faculty mentored. And we have a series of programs offered within the Undergraduate Research Initiative: the Curriculum Grants Program, the Undergraduate Research Grants Program, the Undergraduate Research Symposium, the Undergraduate Research Journal, our Summer Research Scholars. And so any application-based system that runs through OURI has a faculty member's name on it, and that faculty member's name gets uploaded into an annual sort of a tracking document that we use, where we can eliminate duplicates, and we track how often they participate within the program each year and how many programs they participate in. And so that's kind of how FAU tracks the Undergraduate Research Initiative. Now, if you take a look at the data, for example, theoretically, the Honors College, all of their faculty technically should be involved in undergraduate research because they all take on honors students with honors research theses. And so that's one of the things that we're working on. We designed 2 tracking mechanisms through the registrar's office: research intensive course designation, which I didn't get to talk about, and directed independent research, which is a credit bearing system that will allow faculty to tag which students they're working with in undergraduate research across all of the colleges. Since we only instituted that in 2016, our data has become more authentic, but as in all data, there's always going to be missing sources of error. So we consider this sort of the biggest and the highest temperature points.
Thank you. So we have a couple questions that are for all the groups, so I'm going to ask, we'll cycle through them and we'll see who has some of the best answers. So the first is about funding for humanities and arts. And so the question is, we seek sources for external funding to expand our student faculty research in humanities and arts. Are there national foundations that support undergraduate research and artistic endeavors? So
this is Margot. I'll just say that we don't have experience with that because we've been fortunate enough to fund all of our humanities and arts initiatives through private donations from alumni.
Hi, this is Will here. I am not well-versed in funding sources for the arts and humanities, but what we have done at Hope is we established an Office of Sponsored Research. So we have an individual who is expert in those areas, tracks funding opportunities, and then sends out regularly emails as new opportunities come available to faculty. So we have the Office of Sponsored Research work on that.
Do you have any?
Sure. I know NSF has an NEH program. NSF is the National Science Foundation, and there's a subdivision and funding agencies called the NEH that has funded in the past things like documenting endangered languages and those kinds of things. I'm not sure what the funding status is, but I do know there are some sub-programs within, for example, the National Science Foundation. At FAU, we solicited philanthropic donations and private donations of community members that were passionate about certain aspects of arts and humanities to be able to support those students. Most recently, we do this annual gala at the university where they invite, and it's a ticketed approach, and all of the funds that were raised for that gala went to the arts and humanities to better support those students in scholarship, not necessarily only in research, but in their interest in increasing those students.
Okay, great. So I have a couple more specific ones. Back again to you, Donna, at FAU. How do you consider mentoring undergraduate research in the promotion and tenure process?
Sure. So I'm happy to share the language. I will tell you the language has been approved. We're now moving to establishing tables, so template tables for faculty to complete. So in research, or in the category of research, we were able to include receipt of a curriculum grants program and receipt of a grant that included an undergraduate research component, as well as presenting and publishing with undergraduate students as presenters or co-presenters and authors or co-authors. In the area of teaching, we were able to include faculty that were pedagogically changing their courses to include an undergraduate research component for mentoring of students in the area of research and theses as evidenced by directed independent research, and incorporating intensive level research ideas into courses as evidences by the research intensive designation that I talked about earlier. In the area of service, we were able to include things like serving as a judge for the Undergraduate Research Symposium, serving as a reviewer for the Undergraduate Research Journal, and serving as a reviewer for any of our undergraduate research grants or our summer research fellowships. And so what we did was we created generic language that was approved through Faculty Senate. It got included in the P&T language. And this year will be the first year that faculty will have an opportunity to use the templates that I just sent up to the Office of the Provost for final approval, where we give sort of a short table of things that they can include in teaching, research, and service.
Thank you. This is to Denison, and then related will be to all. So would the Denison presenters be willing to share the amount of the donor gift that started their program?
Yeah, the original donor gift came from an alumni family, and this was back in 1985, so it was a long time ago, and it was $250,000. And then with endowment growth and management, plus other donors contributing, we now have we tapped the overall endowment for about $1.5 million in spendable income to focus on student faculty research.
So related, one of the questions is wondering about approximate startup costs for each of these programs, because they seem like a huge financial investment. So I'd like to pose maybe first to Hope. Some of these programs obviously are a huge financial investment, but is there a way to start with a smaller investment?
You're right. They do take a fair amount of funds to run a research program, depending on the discipline also. But at Hope, we do a lot of our, I indicated that we had a lot of effort and success going into annual external writing of grants. So we bring in about $2 million each year from external grants to support faculty scholarship and undergraduate research. We only have about, only relative to Denison, 400,000 each year from endowed sources that we draw upon. So the majority of our funds we raise each year from external sources. It doesn't mean that one needs to start with all of that all at once, but certainly writing grants to secure funding is how HOPE got started in research. It has grown, though, as alums are out there. They've been contributing quite often to departments specifically, sometimes to the college as a whole, to support undergraduate research, because various alums have recognized the critical role that their undergraduate research experience played in their development and success.
Thank you. So this is another one that I'd like each of you to answer. To all the presenters, what was the most challenging part of putting the AURA application together, and how did you deal with that? Starting with Denison.
I think for Denison, when we first sat down to look at the criteria and then tried, and you can only write about a certain number and try to figure out how does our institution culture and tradition align with those criteria, and what are the best criteria for us to focus on, because some things, yeah, we were stronger in others we weren't, and so how to figure out what that alignment might look like. And that took quite a bit of thinking around, lots of people around a table and ideas up on a whiteboard. And probably that took more than one meeting before we kind of said, these are the criteria we want to focus on and put in our proposal, because that's going to showcase our strengths in the best possible manner.
On to HOPE. For
HOPE, I would say the most challenging aspect of putting together our AURA application was gathering the data. It required asking many different parts of campus for data. And also, this is kind of data that is difficult to get sometimes. It's very distributed. We're trying to do a better job at capturing this kind of data within the Office of Research and Scholarship currently. But even things as simple as total grants, total publications, student publications, faculty involvement, one has to track those things in order to be able to get those numbers. And if there's not a mechanism in place for tracking those kinds of activities, particularly if they are over and above the regular activities recorded by the registrar's office, it's not an easy thing to come up with good numbers. So data gathering was the biggest challenge for our application.
Okay, and FAU?
So I think the only thing that I would add to my other two colleagues is knowing what's unique about your institution to tell your story. I think what AURA is looking for are unique programs that do something different. And I think if you evaluate your program under, CUR has an awesome self-review of the 12 characteristics of excellence that you can make notes on to kind of see if there are pockets of guaranteed ones to select. But I think within those discussions, if you're considering applying for the AURA, take a hard look and think creatively about what makes your program stand out, which could then contribute to the conversation of an exemplar program. So I think that's the only thing that I would add.
Okay. I think we have time again for another shared question. And some of you have talked a little bit about this. Do you provide faculty research salary during the summer? And how do you address that related to their 9-month salary? So maybe start with Denison. I think both Denison and all three groups have shared a bit, but just expand.
Yeah, we don't provide a salary, but we do provide a stipend to faculty members who are supervising student research. The stipend currently is $2,500 for the first student you work with, $1,500 for the second student, and just $500 for the third student. And we discourage most faculty from going beyond that. That's for our core programs. And then there are some teams that are funded through outside grants and other smaller endowed funds, but that's the main guideline for stipends. We're looking possibly to increase that, as it has been the same for many, many years.
It's been the same for 18 years, 20 years. The other thing I would say is because it's a stipend, that's less cost to the institution than if it was salary because of, you know, benefits, consequences, and things like that.
At Hope College, there is not a specific policy, although we are certainly working in that direction. Traditionally, the summer salary came out of external grants. So a faculty member would write an external grant and would write in some summer salary for themselves. But there was also times when one did not have external support in that year, or if one was just getting started in a new area or an area that was not, didn't have that as a tradition, then it became harder to remunerate those faculty for their efforts over the summer. So we've been moving toward some stipend over the summer through our college-wide application process for faculty scholarships, summer faculty scholarship, which is $4,600 for the summer. And then we're also trying to move toward a model similarly for example, when we ask donors to fund a summer research student, we ask for funds for that student, typically $4,000 to $4,500 for the summer. But also we ask for a $1,000 faculty stipend for that student, recognizing that without a faculty member there, the student wouldn't have that opportunity. So we are beginning to build that into our cost structure for supporting summer students in their research.
So at Florida Atlantic, because of the size of our institution, we don't offer salary for faculty to mentor students in the summer. Any faculty that gets a summer research fellowship, which is one of the programs that's run by our office, gets a nominal stipend of about $900 for materials and supplies. And I will tell you, our faculty are ridiculously generous with their time. In the 4 years that we've been running that program, the preponderance of those faculty have routed that money back to the student project itself. So our faculty at FAU, those that choose to be here over the summer, are usually funded either through summer teaching salary within the colleges, or as Will mentioned earlier, external funding that pays their summer salary.
Thank you. And that's probably our last question. I will ask, and we'll make sure this information is included in the shared webinar. Some of the questions related to sharing of blueprints of the different programs. So we'll ask after the fact for our various presenters if they have a website or sources for those to share those. And I'll turn it back to Roger.
All right, well, thank you all for participating in this webinar. If you'd like to learn more about Aura or CUR, you will find web and contact information on the last slide. Thank you all and have a great day.